Hmm? Sure. What is it? Mm-hmm. What is it? You're my best friend, but lately, I noticed I might have feelings for you. Oh, I'd love to. What did you want to do together? Sure, I love that idea. Hey! More adventuring? I like the sound of that. Let's go. Yes? Okay, let's go. Can I help you? Yes? Alright then.
argue with that.
Yes. Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Hey, wanna grab a drink at the inn?
How can I argue with that? So you expect me to believe that? Citizen.
Alright then.
Hello there.
Welcome to the Winking Skeever. Take a load off and enjoy the atmosphere.
It's too bad.
How can I argue with that?
It's called off this year.
I
I
don't
think some of the younger
so.
bards would have really gotten a kick
You
out of it.
expect me to
Not my
believe
problem.
Well,
that?
you can understand, Ellis. It is a shame.
I don't think
How are you feeling?
Why don't you mind your own business?
Sorry.
How can I argue with
A
that?
little coin always greases the
Indeed.
wheels.
Fiata, where did you learn to make
You
bows
expect
so
That
me
is
to
well?
so.
believe that?
The same place I learned my charm and quick wits. I used to be an Imperial Ranger, my boy.
Wish I had learned some of that charm.
It would seem
I'm just
so.
good with bows, not people.
I'll be
Yes.
helped. You'd make a better Imperial Ranger than...
I argue with that.
I may have charmed the locals,
No,
but my
I don't
fellow
think so.
soldiers hated my wagging tongue.
How can I
You
argue
expect me
with
to
that?
believe that? Oh, if you insist.
I don't think so.
It would seem so.
Yeah.
Indeed.
How can I argue with
A
that?
little coin always greases the wheels.
Indeed.
Indeed.
It's been a good week, my boy. Loud customers mean good cheer. Good cheer means a full till. You know, I had to retire and leave you to run the skeever, son.
You
It
just
can't
spent
be
your
helped,
time
so-
here bossing me around.
I don't think so.
Smell the food? I'm so excited we're here. Where should we sit?
How can I argue with that?
Alright.
What about Auntie Vida and Dragon Fruit?
It is
He
so.
runs a bar, and you said she's
Not
one of
my
your
problem.
favorite girls.
Yeah.
You expect me to
Indeed.
believe that?
See, that's a little complicated, and you know what? Never mind. Guess I'm not retiring anytime soon.
It would seem so.
It can't be helped.
No, I don't think so.
True enough. You expect
Bet I can reach
No,
the
I
bottom
don't
of
think
this
so.
flagon before you.
Yes.
You're on. Loser buys the next round.
How can I argue with that?
How can I argue with that?
Not my problem.
Fletching suits me.
Can
It's
I buy you
difficult
a
and
drink,
sometimes
darling?
tedious, but a well-made arrow strikes forth like the fury of a god.
You expect me to believe that?
Indeed.
I don't think so.
That is
A
so.
little coin always greases the wheels.
It would seem so.
Nah, I don't think so.
Indeed.
It is so.
You expect me to believe that? Indeed.
How can I argue with that?
I don't think so. How can I argue with that?
Yes.
It would seem so.
Thank you for asking me. I'm so happy to go with you.
Indeed.
Yeah. You expect
Yes, that is so.
No, I don't think so.
It won't be helped.
Indeed.
Yes.
Aw, thank you. You're so sweet. What about them do you like?
Indeed.
Not my problem.
How can I argue?
How can I argue with that?
Wow, really? That makes me so happy. Thank you.
It would seem so.
Yes.
Indeed.
I love coming here. They have some of the best food in Skyrim.
It speaks the truth.
How can I argue with that? You expect me to believe that?
It can't be helped.
Nah, I don't think so. It would seem so.
Nah, I don't think so.
Yes.
No, I wasn't expecting it. We've been best friends for a while now. But, sometimes it's still hard to believe we're actually going on these outings together.
Huh?
You expect me to believe that? Nah, I don't think so.
Really? You feel that way about me? I think I feel the same way.
True enough.
Yes.
How can I argue?
It can't be helped.
You expect me to believe that? Nah, I don't think
A
so.
little coin always greases the wheels.
Let me think. A sweetroll. Honestly, what did you think I was going to say? Oh, with a mug of honey brew mead, please.
Yes.
How can I argue with that?
Indeed.
Okay, thank you. I'll be waiting right here.
Yes.
Nah, I don't think so.
It would seem so.
True enough.
So exciting when new folk come into town. Plenty of adventures.
Indeed.
Can't be helped.
How can I argue?
Welcome to the Winking Skeever, friend.
Yeah.
Let's sate that appetite, hmm?
You expect me to believe that? A little coin always greases the wheels.
Remember the Winking Skeever next time you're footsore.
Not my
It speaks the truth.
It would seem so.
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah.
You expect me to believe that?
That is so.
Indeed.
You forgot I wanted a sweetroll and honey brew mead.
It would seem so.
How can I argue?
It can't be helped.
I don't think so.
Indeed.
This looks amazing. Thank you.
Nah, I don't think so.
Not my problem.
It would
How
seem
can
so.
I argue with that?
Yeah.
How can I argue with that?
Yes. You expect me to believe that?
Can I buy you a drink, darling?
Oh, thank you.
Nah, I don't think so.
Oh, it was very, very good. Thank you again.
Indeed.
That is so.
Is there anything on your mind that you'd like to talk about?
I don't think so.
Not my problem.
Week, my boy. Loud customers mean good cheer, and good cheer means a full till. You know, I had to retire and leave you to run the skeever, son.
Yes, I did used to live here. Well, it was when I was very small. What about solitude did you want to talk about?
Why not let me run the skeever? I already know lots about it.
I don't think so. A girl running a bar. Don't be ridiculous, Manette.
But you
My
always
mother
say
believed
love
she could make more money than dealing with those thieves in the Ratway. They were bad business,
Well, you see,
but I kind of
it's
find them
a little
interesting now.
complicated, and you know what? Never mind. Guess I'm not retiring anytime soon.
It was hard times. Trade was bad, and my mother just couldn't let go of the fact that my father never came back from the petty wars. She had to make a difficult decision for us. We could stay here and keep waiting for him to return, or move in with my mother's family back in Bruma. Well, after a year or so, we had to accept the hard truth that he wasn't coming back. So on my 4th birthday, we moved to Bruma, where I grew up most of my life.
I don't think so.
It can't be helped.
Yes?
Yes, my mother and I would travel and trade around Skyrim very often. We even stayed here at this very inn. Corpulus was such a good friend. He would feed us when we couldn't afford to eat.
Oh, this drink's on me.
Being friends with the bartender's son has its advantages, huh?
Me? That was really unexpected, but so flattering. I think you made my heart skip a beat. Sure thing. That would be spring. The mild breeze and sunshine on my face is so nice. It's a nice contrast from the harsh cold of Bruma and Winterhold. What season is your favorite? You like it too? Isn't it such a perfect time of year? It's full of renewed life and warmth from the sun. When I lived in Bruma, my mother and I would sit together on snowy days and study our spellbooks together. It's something I still do when snow falls here, albeit without my mother.
Can I buy you a treat, darling?
My favorite color?
Thank you.
That would have to be purple. I think it's nice you want to know that about me. It can tell so much about a person and who they are. My favorite memory would have to be a moment that I shared with my close friend Raylan when I used to live in Bruma. We were sitting together under a tree, and he was reading a book aloud to me. While I listened to him read, his voice began to sound different to me. I suddenly noticed that I found a type of comfort in it. Suddenly, when he looked up from the book he was reading and made eye contact with me, I realized I had been staring at him that entire time. I grew nervous and felt my cheeks become warm, so I looked away quickly. The next thing I knew, Raylan reached over to pluck a small wildflower growing nearby, and he gave it to me. When I took it from him, our eyes met again, and I felt an intense feeling of love. His cheeks turned red, and I knew he felt it too. That is the most cherished memory I have, and also one of the most painful ones. I'm sorry, I think I'm ready to talk about something else. My memory is vague when I used to live in solitude, but I have a few with my mother. There was one time when we were in town, struggling to make money trading. We were running low on coin, and winter was coming fast and hard.
Can I argue with that?
My mother insisted over and over that we'd strike it rich. She kept saying that some big adventurer would come by and turn our luck around. And if you couldn't guess by the tone of my voice, no one came. Instead, we got snowed in. We laughed about it for a while, and then Mother said she was sorry for being greedy and waiting so long. Snowed in with little coin, we grew fearful of what would happen next. I remember vividly one winter's night, a strange adventurer came in and paid for our food, supplies, and our room. We were so happy. We thanked and celebrated Saturalia with him. He really loved his mead. Probably too much for his own good. Oh, and the fir tree was so pretty. That next morning, the snow thawed just enough for travel, so we packed our new supplies and went back home. We both took that as a valuable lesson to never be too greedy for your own good.
How can I argue with that?
Oh, that's a little hard. This town is amazing, but if I had to pick one, I'd say the Blue Palace. It's so beautiful. I love the stained glass windows and marble floors.
It speaks the truth.
Okay,
You expect me to believe that?
That is so.
Nah, I don't think so.
How can I argue with that?
Not my
A
problem.
little coin always greases the wheels.
well, you probably know by now, but my dream was to adventure, to have my own stories to tell, places I could say I've been to before, and things I've done.
I don't think so.
Thanks to you, that dream came true.
How can I argue with that?
It can't be helped.
It speaks
Yes.
the truth.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
It's okay. Sometimes I run out of ideas too. Remember that the end of a chapter doesn't mean the end of a good book. Sometimes you have to put a pin in it.
A little coin always greases the wheels.
That is so.
You expect me to believe that?
I don't think so.
It is so.
It can't be helped.
How can I
Aw,
argue with that?
I really wish we could have stayed longer. I had so much fun with you. But you're right, it's getting late. I'll be ready to go when you are.
Yeah.
Not my problem.
You expect me to believe that?
Sure, what did you want to ask me?
How can I argue
I
with
don't
that?
think so.
Would seem so. A little coin always greases the wheels.
How can I argue with
I
that?
see you more as a
Yes.
best friend.
Can't be helped.
You expect me to believe that?
That is so.
How can I argue with that?
I don't think so.
Nah,
It is
I don't
so.
think so.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. I know you mean well, but I just don't see us there yet. I'm more comfortable as close friends right now, but I'm sure that can change over time.
You expect me to believe that?
Indeed.
It speaks the truth.
How can I argue with that?
A little coin always.
Of course we can. We always can. Whenever you're feeling romantic and want to spend time together, just ask me. As long as the time is right, we can go.
It is so.
Nah, I don't think so.
Might argue with that.
Yes.
I did too. That was one of the best romantic outings I've ever had with you. Thank you.
You expect me to believe that?
It speaks the truth.
How can I argue with that?
Okay. Oh, and one last thing. Thank you again for tonight.
How can I
It was
argue with that?
amazing.
It can't be helped.
It would seem so.
A little coin always greases the wheels.
Nah, I don't think so.
No. My problem.
How can I argue with that?
Hey,
Nah, I don't think so.
It is so.
It speaks the truth.
It would seem so.
all right, what is it?
How can I argue with that?
How can I argue with that?
Sure, what is
I
it?
think so.
You expect me to believe that?
It can't
Nah,
be helped.
I don't think so.
A little coin always greases the wheels.
How can I
It
argue
would
with
seem
that?
so.
That is so.
Not my problem.
You're my best friend, but
Nah,
lately,
I don't think so.
I noticed
Yes.
I might have feelings for you.
You expect me to believe that?
How can I argue with that?
It would seem so.
How can I argue with that?
Indeed.
can't be helped.
Are you asking me if we can share a sweet roll together?
A little coin always
I
greases
argue
the
with that?
wheels.
You expect
Oh,
me to
well, what
believe
is it?
that?
That is so.
Really? So, you want to be more with me? I've been having feelings for you lately, but I wasn't sure if you did. I'm so happy that you do.
How can I argue?
I must be dreaming. I have to be. My biggest fancy, fancying me.
It would seem so.
Yes. I am. Sorry.
This can't be helped.
So, I was thinking, and if you're okay with this, we'll
How can I argue
we'll
with
give
that?
it some time and see how it goes. And if Lady Mara wishes us to be married, then we can. So, how's that sound?
It speaks the truth.
No, I don't
It
think
is
so.
so.
How can I argue
How
with
can
that?
I argue with that?
You expect me to believe that?
It would seem so.
It can't be helped.
No,
Yes.
I don't think so.
Oh, this is amazing. Thank you so much for asking me. I'm sure Lady Mara is smiling on us right now. This means so much to me.
This greases the wheels.
That is so.
It would seem so.
You expect me to believe that?
Nah, I don't think so.
It speaks the truth.
How can I argue with that?
Indeed.
It can't be helped.
You're my partner. I really enjoy the time I spend with you.
I don't think so.
You expect me to believe that?
Nah, I don't
It
think
was
so.
fun. You really know how to treat me. I love being with you. I'm excited to go again sometime.
A little pride always greases the wheels.
It is so.
Yes.
Would seem so.
That is so.
We'll talk later. Can I help you?
You expect me to believe that?
Oh, for me? You shouldn't have.
Speaks
Thanks.
the truth.
Nah, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
It would seem so.
Indeed.
How can I argue with that?
A little coin always
How
greases
can I
the
argue with
wheels.
that?
You
Not
expect
my
me
problem.
to believe that?
That is so.
Nah, I don't
It would
think
seem so.
True enough.
Yes.
How can I argue with
It
that?
can't be helped.
It is so.
Nah, I don't think so.
You expect me to believe that?
It would seem so.
Nah, I don't think so.
How can I argue with that?
Hey.
How can I argue with that?
Not my
A little
problem.
Can I
coin
help you?
always greases the wheels.
You expect me to believe that?
Nah, I don't think so.
It would seem so.
How can I
can't be
argue with
helped.
that?
Hey, wanna get a drink?
Think so. Indeed.
How can I argue with that?
Nah,
How have you
I
been?
don't think so.
Yes?
It would seem so.
All right then.
You expect me to believe that?
How can I argue with that?
A little coin always greases the wheels.
Not my problem.
That is so.
Enough.
It speaks
It
the
is
truth.
so.
Yes.
How can I argue?
Sure thing. It's yours for a day.
You
I'll show you to your room. Right this way.
Would seem so.
It can't be helped.
Nah,
I don't think
so.
so.
How can I argue with that? How can I argue with that?
A little coin always greases the wheel.
You expect me to believe that?
Not my problem.
Indeed. True enough.
Nah, I don't think so.
It would
It
seem
speaks
so.
the truth.
Let me know if there's anything else you need.
How
You
can I
expect me
argue
to
with
believe
that?
That is so.
It can't be helped.
Nah, I
How
don't
can I argue with that?
Would seem so.
Nah, I don't think so.
How can I argue with that?
A little.
It's nice to kick back and relax.
Expect me to believe that?
It is so. Yeah.
It would seem so.
Yes.
True enough.
It
How can
speaks
I
the
argue
truth.
with that?
You expect me to believe that?
No, I don't think so.
It would seem so.
How can I argue with that?
A little
my
coin
problem.
always greases the wheels.
How can I argue with that?
You expect me to believe that?
Yeah.
Nah, I don't think so.
It is so.
That is so.
It would seem so.
How can I
It
argue with
speaks
that?
the truth.
Indeed.
Huh?
You expect me to believe that?
How can I argue with
Nah, I don't think so.
Not my problem.
A little
would
coin
seem so.
always greases the wheels.
How... Can I argue? That.
Nah, I don't think so.
that? You expect me to believe that?
How can I argue with that?
A little coin always greases the wheels.
It would
It
seem
can't
so.
be.
Not my problem.
That is so.
How can I... Argue with that?
Nah, I don't think so.
Nah, I don't think so.
You expect me to believe that?
It would seem so. It speaks. It's the truth.
Indeed.
How can I argue argue with that?
Nah, I don't think so.
How can I argue with that?
A little coin always greases the wheels.
Can't be helped.
It would seem so.
You expect me to
Not
believe
my
that?
problem.
Yes.
How can I argue with that?
I don't
It
think
is
so.
so.
Nah, I don't think so.
It would seem so.
True enough. You expect me to believe that?
Huh?
It speaks the truth.
How can I argue always greases the wheels?
How can I argue with that?
It would seem so.
Nah, I don't
Yes.
think so.
Not my problem. You expect me to
It
believe
can't
that?
be helped.
How can I argue with
Nah,
that?
I don't think so.
It would seem so.
Indeed. Nah, I don't think so.
Huh?
True
I
enough.
argue with that.
A little that.
You expect me to believe that? Not my problem.
Yeah.
A little coin always greases the
Can't be
wheels.
helped.
Huh?
Nah, I don't think so.
How can I argue
You
with
expect me
that?
to
Speaks
believe
the
that? I don't
truth.
think so.
Indeed.
How can I argue with that?
It is so. Enough.
It would seem so.
That is... Oh,
How can I argue with
Can't be
that?
helped.
How can I argue with that?
Not my problem.
It speaks the truth.
nah, I don't
Nah,
think so.
I don't think so.
It would seem so. True enough.
A little coin. Always
How
greases
can I
the
argue with
wheels.
that?
Huh? You expect me to believe that?
It would seem so.
Yes.
It can't be helped.
How can I argue with that? It
How
is
can
so.
I argue with that?
Not my problem.
Papa says I won't see Rogvir anymore. But he wouldn't tell me why not.
How can I argue with
A
that?
little coin always
I
greases
don't
the
think
wheels.
so. It can't be helped.
How can I argue with that? Huh?
It
Been a
speaks
good
the
week,
truth.
my boy. Loud customers mean good cheer, and good cheer means a full till. You know, I had to retire and leave you to run the skeever, son.
I don't know, Father. There's a whole world out there I want to see.
How can I argue
Why
with
not
that?
let me run the skeever? I already know lots about it.
Ha! A girl running a bar. Don't be ridiculous, Minette.
What about Auntie Fida, the dragon? He runs a bar, and you said she's one of your favorite girls.
Ah!
It would seem
That's it.
so.
I'm not retiring, ever. End of discussion.
How can I argue with that?
Nah, I don't think so.
Not my problem.
Nah, I don't think
A
so.
little coin always greases the wheels.
How can I
You
argue with
expect
How
that?
can
me
I
to
argue with
believe
that?
that?
It can't be helped.
Yes?
It would seem so.
True enough.
More adventuring? I like the sound of that. Let's go.
How can I argue
Not
with
my
that?
problem.
Can I help you? I'll be right behind you.
You expect me to believe that?
Yes?
Huh? It would seem so. How can I argue with
Nah,
that?
I don't think so.
It can't be helped.
A little coin always greases the wheels.
Boy, stranger. You know you can afford a septim or two?
I had another run-in with the Thieves Guild.
Be careful, Mule. The Thieves Guild has made... Blackbro... They're at its back. One snap of her... So you could end up in Riften jail. Or worse.
They represent the reason I'm here. I can't just ignore them, Eren.
I know. I just don't want you to leave. You're the only good thing that's happened to this city in a long time.
You expect me to believe
Hey,
that?
you. I don't know you. You and Riften looking for trouble?
Yes.
You can pretend not to hear me all you want, but you better stay out of the Blackbriar's business.
I'm really getting tired of your excuses. When you borrowed the money, you said you'd pay it back on time, or double the usual fee.
You aren't worth my time. Piss
How was I
off.
told the shipment would get robbed?
Next time, keep your plans quieter, and nothing would have happened to you.
How can I help you with that?
Are you telling me you robbed it? Why? Why are you doing this to me?
Look, Shadr, last warning. Pay up or else.
I don't think
All
so.
I care about is the gold. Everything else is your problem.
Greetings.
It's so good to see you again.
Can I argue with that?
A little coin always greases the wheels.
Huh? What do you want? I owe a great deal of money to someone, and I think they cheated me. I don't know what to do. I was able to work out a deal with the stables in Whiterun to sell me some of their tack and harnesses. I borrowed some gold from Sapphire to pay for the shipment, but it got robbed before it even arrived. Now Sapphire wants her money back, and if I don't pay her, I think she's going to kill me. You will? Oh, thank you. Yes. Hofgrir took me in when I arrived in Riften about a year ago. He's been teaching me everything he knows. Horses are my whole life. Back in Hammerfell, I helped my family raise horses at our farm. I hope to open my own stables one day, but I think it's going to take a lot longer than I expected. Be careful with Sapphire. She mixes with all sorts of nasty people.
How can I argue with...
Expect me to believe that.
Indeed.
If you've got the coin, you've come to the right place. Pull up a seat.
People of Riften, heed my words. The return of the dragons is not mere coincidence. This is one of the signs.
Yeah.
The
What's your
signs
problem?
That Lady Mara is displeased with your constant inebriation. Put down your flagons filled with your vile liquids, and embrace the teachings of the handmaiden of Kind.
No, Marama. We talked about this. Talon?
I knew that stupid kid would try and find a way to weasel out of his debt. Look, this is really simple. I lent him some gold, he promised to pay me back, and now he says he's broke. End of story.
There's no need to use them as an excuse.
All right. I guess I made enough from his shipment. No need to waste any more time threatening a stable hand. Tell Shadr he doesn't owe me anything.
Just keep the servants at the temple and let us all sin in peace.
Nah, I don't think so.
How can I argue with that?
Yeah.
It speaks truthfully.
Nah, I don't think
Look,
so.
I already said Shadr doesn't owe me a thing, so get off my back.
Hey,
How can
want
I
to sit
argue
by the
with that?
fire with me?
It speaks the truth.
Talon, do you believe what they're saying? Huh? Do you really think the dragons have returned?
I don't know what to believe. If it's true, then dark times may be upon us.
What should we do?
We hold each other close and hope that all of this ends well.
Nah, I don't think so.
Hey, want to get a drink?
Nah, I don't think so.
Not my problem.
All right, what is it?
How can I argue with that?
Sure thing.
It speaks the truth.
It speaks truthfully.
Nah.
Yeah.
Think so.
A little coin always greases the wheels.
You expect me to believe that?
Not my problem.
How can I argue with that?
I don't think so.
How can I argue with that?
Nah, I don't think so.
It would seem so.
It can't be helped.
Huh? Yeah.
You expect me to believe
How can
that?
I argue with that?
Not my problem.
It would seem so.
Nah, I don't think so.
A little coin always greases the wheels.
How can I argue with that?
Can't be helped.
How can I argue with that?
Huh?
Nah, I don't think so.
You... Expect me to believe that?
Yes.
It would seem so.
It speaks the truth.
It speaks truthfully.
How can I argue with that?
Not my problem.
Huh?
If you've got the coin, you're welcome
don't
here.
think so.
Otherwise, hit the road. Sure thing. It's yours for a day.
How could I argue with that?
Come back and see us again. You expect me to believe that?
It can't be
Yeah.
helped.
How could I argue with that?
It speaks truthfully.
It speaks the truth.
You expect me to believe that?
Nah, I don't think so.
How can I argue
How
with
can
that?
I argue with that?
Yeah.
A little coin always greases the wheels.
How could I argue with that?
Nah, I don't think so.
Not my problem.
Hey,
It can't be helped.
It would seem so.
more adventuring? I like the sound of that. Let's go.
Nah, I don't think so.
Hey, wanna get a drink?
How could I argue with that?
Okay, let's go.
Not my problem.
A little coin always greases the wheels. A little coin How can I argue with that?
Yeah.
That is so.
The highest quality in Skyrim.
Buy some armor and live to tell about it.
Speaks truthfully.
Not my problem.
Speaks the truth.
Nah, I don't think so.
The coin always greases the wheels. Gems, potions, exotic ingredients. I have them all.
Gleaming gemstones over here.
Looking to stay alive? Why take a chance?
Yes. Nah, I don't think so.
That is so.
Rare trinkets and the finest oddities from Morrow.
Legendary Argonian craftsmanship.
Yes.
Protect yourself right. Buy armor from Grelka.
Indeed.
Buying and selling fine jewelry here.
Not my problem. Exotic ingredients. I have them all.
That is so.
Can I help you?
Rare trinkets and the finest oddities from Morrow.
All right then.
Blessings of Mara upon you.
How can I argue with that?
How may I help you, my son?
How can I argue with that?
It would seem so.
How can I argue with that?
Can I help you?
No, I don't think so.
Of course. Lady Mara, goddess of love and compassion, is one of the divines which I've served for a long time now. She is the mother to all, bringing fertility not only to people and animals, but plants too, promoting a good harvest to many. She teaches us to honor our parents, live soberly, bring peace to all, and most importantly, to always have love and compassion for others. Mara's teaching of love is the most important. Love is what binds us together, especially if that love is for one person above all others in the union of marriage. That is our teachings of Lady Mara, goddess of love and compassion. I pray you follow these to the best of your heart's ability.
You expect me to believe that?
Of course, child, of course. May the blessings of Lady Mara descend upon you, child. May she always help guide and keep you in her love and compassion, always.
How can I argue with that?
A long time. Some 25 years now. I was very young back then. Probably 18 when I made the vow. Really? Yes. When I see other lives people have lived. But nothing brings me more joy than to see two people make vows in love. It's true love that makes me happy to see. May Lady Mara's love fill your heart.
Can I help you?
How can I argue with that?
Mm-hmm.
Blessings of Mara upon you. Wonderful. Where to begin? Mara is the goddess of love. The temple spreads her gifts by tending to the sick, the poor, and the lost. We also perform wedding ceremonies for all the loving couples in Skyrim. Yes, if you were ready, of course. Are you familiar with how marriage works in Skyrim? Typically, love in Skyrim is as earnest as the people who live here. Life is hard and short, so there's little room for long courtship. A person who is looking for a spouse simply wears an amulet of Mara about the neck, showing they are available. When another person shows interest and the two agree to be together, one of them comes to the temple and we arrange a ceremony. Here you are. Now, remember, people in Skyrim respond to deeds. You'll find more people interested in your love if you help them. Good luck. Mara bless you. Of course. I'd be more than happy to add a donation to our charity box. Right now, the best you could provide is coin. We need all the help we can get. Thank you. I can promise you that this will be put to good use. May you return to her benevolence in safety. How can I argue with that?
Yes?
It would seem so.
All right, what is it?
It can't be helped.
Sure, what is it?
How can I argue with that?
You're my partner. I really enjoy the time I spend with you.
It would seem so.
It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it with you. We should do something again soon.
How can I argue with that?
All right then.
Yes.
Can I help you?
How can I argue with that?
What's on your mind?
Huh?
Mm-hmm. What is it?
How can I argue with that?
I'm not sure if I'm ready yet. I'd like to get to know you more first before considering getting married.
It can't be helped.
As much as I enjoy going on romantic outings with you, I'm really tired and I'd like to take a break.
How can I
We can
argue
always
with
try
that?
again later.
You expect me to believe that? How can I argue with that? Nah, I don't think so.
Would seem so. Welcome to Riften, home of the Thieves Guild. Or so they'd have you believe. It's all lies. You're just thugs, vermin creeping around the rat way.
Indeed.
How can I
You speak the truth. A little coin always greases the wall.
It can't be used.
You expect me to believe that?
I don't think
It seems so.
Fresh meats and produce. Get them before the...
Got the coin? You've come to the right place. Pull up a seat.
Huh? You've been in Riften for quite... time now, Lady Mule.
Yeah.
I fear that you soon may leave us.
Argue with that.
Riften has problems of its own.
I don't
Now is
think
not the
so.
time for exploration and discovery.
I'm relieved to hear you say that. If you were to leave, I'd miss you
Yes.
A little coin
Eric,
always
I owe you my
greases
life.
the wheels.
It would take a threat to all of Skyrim.
How
to pull
can
me
I
to the
argue
party.
with that?
Hey,
It can't be helped.
Nah, I don't think so.
Taylor, another round.
That is so.
I think you've had plenty, Volwolf. Maybe you should
all
head
right,
on home.
what is it?
It would seem
Stupid
so.
lizard. I said, give me some more drink.
Okay.
I'll have your hand on that bike.
Suit yourself.
You expect me to believe that?
Nah, I